This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
That's it. Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of the Empty Chair. I'm glad you could join us. Listen, before I introduce my guests, we're kind of dedicating this show to a really fantastic lady who was a guest of ours November 27, 2018. We've been doing this for a while, Lou. And anyway, her name was Merrie Cunnif, and we absolutely loved her. She was really a strong lady. She suffered, along with her addiction, she had autoimmune disease, suffered with breast cancer to the point where she had 2 mastectomies, and had a near fatal crash of her son. And she's been in pain for a long time. And I'm sorry to say that just recently, she just couldn't deal with the pain anymore. And we lost her. So, those of you that are out there that knew Merrie, if you'd like to give us a call, I just ask you to wait for the second half of the show. First half of the show, I'd like to get to Harold and his program and what they have to offer. But after that, if any of Merrie's friends are listening, you're more than welcome to give them a call and, say hi to us and kind of keep Merrie in your thoughts. And if you want to see Merrie, actually, if you go to the MVPASAP Facebook page and you look at videos, and if you look up November 27, 2018, there's an hour and a half podcast that me and Fran did with Merrie, and it was one of the ones we really enjoyed. So keep that in mind. And at this time, I'd like to introduce my guest and one of our sponsors, I'm happy to say, Harold Magoon, who is the director of the Lawrence Methuen Community Coalition, LMCC.
That's
And
correct.
that's how we will refer from. So, Harold, thank you so much for coming here tonight. And we were talking earlier on, and I said, organizations like yours and ours and so many others, because it's so hard to market, because people don't want to hear about it, we're some of the best kept secrets around. So we're going to tell some of those secrets. Why don't we start with when did your organization start, Harold?
Sure. So thank you, Phil. I appreciate it very much being on the program and to talk about this. As you mentioned, we need to talk about these things as much as we can, talk about prevention for families and community. But LMCC started back in 1995. It was an initial community prevention safety initiative that started in Lawrence, and they also picked out a corner of the Methuen in the Methuen-Arlington neighborhood. That's
right.
where the M comes in with LMCC. So it was an initiative to try to get community safety initiatives going back in 95. I didn't come along until 1996, 1 year later, and I've been there since then. I can't even do the math at this point. I don't want to do the math, I don't think. But it's been great. I've enjoyed every moment. We've been able to expand through the years to get a lot of initiatives going.
All right. Why don't we talk kind of the early days? What were some of the earlier programs that you had? And I know you only had maybe a couple of employees back in the early days, right?
Well, it was actually one employee. You did everything from the bathroom to the boardroom type thing, right? You did empty the trash buckets. You did minutes. You made phone calls. So I was one staff person early on. And one of the initiatives we initially did was things like National Night Out,
Sure.
To try to help promote community prevention initiatives, working really close with police, crime watches, that type of work
Right.
was out in the community back in the very early days. And it just kind of expanded, working with all different segments of community too. And that's really what the coalition is about. You're working with schools, you're working with police, you're working with the business community, faith-based groups, to try to get a real team environment going on how to prevent, different types of violence prevention. Child abuse and neglect was our initial thrust in
Right.
preventing child abuse and neglect with the Department of Children and Families, DCF, and trying to work and support and help families navigate systems.
All right. Well, how long after that did you kind of expand into the addiction, substance abuse, smoking, the whole thing like that?
Yeah. So from that, within a couple of years, we were able to get some additional grants. One expanded some of the family-based programming that allow us to bring on a few more staff to do more child abuse prevention type work. So that was a program that we initially called Patch. Patch comes from, it's an initiative actually that comes from England. In England, their neighborhoods are called patches, a patch of land, that sort of thing. So they had this initiative in England where they took a particular neighborhood and they tried to put supports in a particular neighborhood to try to help stem the tide with any sorts of abuse or anything like that. So that's where the model came from. We brought it here to Lawrence. That was our first step out of the box in terms of like doing additional services. Then around 1998, 1999, we were able to bring in some Department of Public Health grants, working on prevention of underage drinking with some of our first pieces of work. And then also at the time it was nicotine. There were different types of drugs that were emerging on the scene that we basically held coalition meetings. That's how the coalition really started to form, broadened it out to different communities, Lawrence, Methuen, Andover, North Andover, and Haverhill. And in the early days, it was the prevention of underage drinking. And then from there, it grew into more of the addictive type of drugs, more chronic drugs with opioids, and be able to get additional grants through the Department of Public Health.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I can remember pre-COVID. Seems like forever ago.
Right.
But I can remember you guys started these monthly meetings that I thought were incredible. I mean, you'd have 25, 30 people there from various organizations, and we would spitball a lot of things. And, and I think the real benefit of that was that everybody started to get to know everybody in that group, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's now I don't think, do you still do them, or
we do them with your favorite thing. We do them through Zoom. And so that's our initiatives right now. We want to get back to the in-person. I actually just got a piece of equipment that what's going to enable us to use both in-person, to have in-person meetings and have people on Zoom. So they're called hybrid.
That's,
it's a hybrid meeting.
Actually, we've been doing that. Actually, Cole's been doing that with some of our board of director meetings. Actually,
but this is a special piece of equipment that has an electronic eye. It's pretty interesting. It's called an owl, and we'll be doing that out of our offices at 130 Parker Street. And that's kind of how we've been able to maintain momentum, so to speak, right? To be able to continue to have our quarterly meetings. We actually have another initiative that we've started about 2 years ago. It's called a hub, and a hub is basically a hub of agencies. And what we do is we work on trying to provide supports to the most at-risk individuals that come to us. We've got a really nice cross section of community members, community providers. We're getting like 35 people on a call every single week. So to me, that's amazing work to get that. And we have Methuen on the call as well. Cole, Chief McNamara, and his team also join us on the calls from time to time. Cole's always there every week, representing Methuen, to talk about mostly overdoses and try to find supports to individuals that may have overdosed within the last week or so, to try to get supports directly out to them.
All right. Now I know, because I know one of your employees, Eve.
Yeah,
She is also on the MVPASAP board of
sure.
directors. Uh, Now, each one of them, they kind of have programs that they kind of
Correct.
work on specifically, or
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Eve is another. I mean, that's the other thing too with LMCC. I'm so fortunate to have such a great staff. We've got 7 full-time employees
right.
now. I really love the camaraderie that we have and the passion, right, that all of these folks bring to the table. And you're right, they're working on different initiatives. Eve works on a program called Drug-Free Communities.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on preventing first-time substance use within youth. So it's mostly in the schools and working with youth. And so, yeah, she does an excellent job with that. The biggest primary driver with that type of work right now is vaping,
Yeah.
for the most part,
Yep.
and
Yep.
marijuana use. But she does a great job of engaging youth, and coming up with positive types of initiatives, programming, different types of things that kids can be interested in, as opposed to when first time use. And so we see it in an age span that tends further and further down, the need to engage youth in a much lower grades, right,
Mhm.
in school. Before, everyone was like focused on high school with like the DARE program
Yep.
and things
Yep.
of that nature.
Yep.
And now the research shows you have to do this earlier. You have to get into middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and actually now into elementary school,
Yeah.
to really get the positive messaging. And so, that's what's been shown. So she does a great job with that. Drug-Free Communities is a nationwide program, all across the country. And it's actually something that Methuen could actually apply for. Again, it's a coalition type of format that brings together community members, community providers, schools, especially law enforcement, and you work together based upon a various data that you look at, and come up with some prevention-based initiatives. So it's a 10-year grant. I think we're
Yeah.
in year 8 right now.
Oh. Nice.
And so, yeah, we've been around a little
Yeah.
bit. You
Yeah.
can tell the hair keeps going north. And,
Well, at least you've
when
got some hair to go north for crying out loud.
when I go for a haircut, it's like less. So I tell my wife I'm going for a haircut. She's like, I
Luke,
come back and
he's
it's like,
complaining about hair.
well,
He's
yeah.
got a nerve,
I
don't
know.
he?
I have no sympathy.
So yeah. So anyway, yeah, we've been around a bit, but
Yeah.
the work just keeps coming at you. The stuff that's on the street now is scary.
Poison. It is.
And the prevention, as much prevention that I love the work that MVP ASAP does. And I know we partner quite a bit. We want to do more. You can't do this enough to really get messaging out to
Exactly.
parents and families and individuals about what's out there on the street. And if folks happen to get involved in something, we have supports in place, like and this line of work better than me, about the support groups and addiction and all those different things. So I've seen it around parts of the state all the time about these different initiatives, but I know we've got a pretty strong base here in Merrimack Valley, and
do.
love to be able to
Yeah.
strengthen it as much as we can.
Yeah. And again, we were talking about this prior to the show, but I've noticed that ever since the legalization of marijuana,
Yeah.
that parents, they were always public enemy number one, but now they're even worse because the way marijuana has been promoted,
Yeah.
They make it sound
Mhm.
like it's a better alternative to drinking, and it's
Right.
they almost make it sound like it's a wonder drug.
Yeah.
And when parents are start thinking that way, it's pretty tough to get the message across to the kid.
It is, and it's tough enough, without that. But now we have that introduced into it. You drive on 495 and you have giant signs every few miles about dispensaries.
Oh,
and
I know
all
it.
the.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
You try to look for an ad that's not a dispensary
I know.
now.
I agree.
But it's awful. in what we have to deal with. And research says that if you look at one of those billboards, I think they say if you look at it like in a pattern and a pattern of like 13 times, it starts to become some sort of subconscious thing.
Right.
So yeah, the messaging is just really
It's
difficult
really, yeah.
with parents, especially. Kids are being introduced to these things in so many places, in social media, TikTok, Instagram,
Sure.
the whole nine yards. Programs like MVPASAP and LMCC, I think, are critical because they introduce kind of like the harmful effects actually that some of these drugs can bring. And also the strength of the street level drugs is like an all-time high.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, all it takes is one time.
Yeah.
I mean, if a young person is at a party and someone has something and it's, God knows where they might have gotten it. If it is laced with fentanyl or
Yes.
something like that, you're in big trouble. So, you really can't, the safety that sometimes is portrayed, as you just mentioned about marijuana, you can't equate that because all it takes is one time. It's scary as hell, actually.
And all right now, and that is an argument that parents use a lot to support.
Mhm.
They want it. They want their kid. If their kids are going to smoke marijuana, they want it from a dispensary where it won't be laced with fentanyl.
Mhm.
They just don't seem to get the fact.
No.
They hate the idea that it being called a gateway drug.
Right.
But drinking,
Right.
pot,
Yeah.
cigarettes, almost anything you can think of can
Yeah.
be a gateway drug when somebody starts at that young of age.
Absolutely. It's still chasing the high, chasing, those types of situations that happen when they do drugs like that. And it's just it's a constant battle. You're right about being a gateway drug. I mean, God forbid it happens to evolve that something else is tried in a party. Pills or there's fake pills on the street.
Sure.
There's even pills that might be in someone's medicine cabinet, which is why we do the drug take back day every single year. So that's where it can start. It starts with alcohol, and then, like you said, with the prevalence of marijuana, and the acceptance that's kind of like coming in.
That is a big factor.
Yeah, it's really challenging, right? When you try to get the messaging out, but you really have to try as much as you can, to try to get the messaging out to folks. The research shows that, a child's brain still develops all the way up to like age 26.
Yes.
So, if they're smoking blunts or whatever they're doing and they think it's okay because mom and dad do it or whatever, or gummies and all sorts of stuff, that are out there. It's such it adds to the level of difficulty we have with this work.
And I'm glad you brought up about the development of the brain, because I mean, I've been doing this longer than I care to also, but I'd say you're always learning something. Yeah. And I remember a few years ago, we had Dr. Poti come in. And she explained the genetics of it. She explained the way the development of the brain. And she also, that's why a lot of times when I'll talk to the kids, I'll say, I'm not saying don't ever have a drink. I'm not even saying don't ever do weed. Just wait. Yeah. You're 16, 17, 18. What's the hurry? If you can't have fun as an 18, 19-year-old without getting high, then you've got more problems than you realize.
Right.
But if they, she was very explicit. If you can just hold off to your mid-20s, the chances of you becoming addicted are reduced dramatically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. It's scary because things trend down younger and younger and younger.
Yeah, I'm afraid,
and even when we look at some of the higher end stuff that people that might be using on the street, those ages keep trending more and more down and down and down. Whereas, when we first started doing the opioid prevention work, it's statistics where people in their 50s, Caucasian people coming from New Hampshire, coming down here to buy drugs, that sort of thing. and that's changed over time now. And now the ages, as we go through our meetings every single week, we're seeing people 40s, 30s, 20s,
Yes.
and in different demographics, as we kind of touched upon when we were talking earlier. It's not just in the cities, it's everywhere. It's in the suburbia. And so it's so challenging to try to get that prevention message out there to prevent that first time use.
Yes.
Because you don't know what those, like you mentioned, gateway drugs, you don't know eventually what it could lead to. And maybe they try something at a party, and then they want to try it again, and then it becomes an addictive behavior.
Well, now one of the more difficult problems that we run into is trying to get a group of parents together. And we've got some, but kids, when they're in the school, they're stuck. They gotta listen.
Yeah.
But
Right.
getting parents, have you had any success, or what method would you go about to reaching them?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And wherever we can engage, we try to engage. Sometimes there are different parent groups in different settings. We've had luck with PTAs, talking to parents through PTAs, parent teacher associations. Some of them still exist. And some is on Zoom or hybrid meetings, wherever we can engage. But other I call them naturally occurring meetings, right? Groups that might be meeting in a parenting group through a school, or through another community organization, maybe the YMCA, the YWCA, the Boys and Girls Club, where there's groups, and even church groups. We've actually had some good success in working with faith-based groups and engaging parents. And you'd be surprised, we do this thing called a hidden in plain sight. Eve does a great job with that, with kind of simulating what a kid's bedroom would look like. And then they go ahead and
I can remember one of the events we had quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And we had that display put up. Might have been one of the police departments. I forget which one put it up. But the parents, when they went in there, it's a very eye-opening experience, because to find out what these little darlings can do and how they can hide it and so forth. It was very an eye-opening experience.
And it brings about the conversation, right? The conversation comes out, with the parents. They're asking questions. They want to get more information, become better informed, what to watch for, and have conversations with their own children, have conversation with their kids, because that's an important piece too.
And that's why if the parents would just reach out, get themselves educated, then they'd be able to talk to their child the way, with a little bit of knowledge about. But it's like I said, parents are tough. I know. In all honesty, if my daughter would have never become a heroin addict, I probably would have been one of those hypocrites that think addicts were just the ones that are poor environment, lousy family life, so forth. And I found out the hard way, like so many others.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you put a big effort of your work, and I'm very impressed, and I know many community members are, that you've kind of turned that situation into an educational drive that you have, and keep driving with it, and I think you see it with the elements of how MVPASAP has emerged, kind of similar to what LMCC has, right? We started small, but you just keep going. You're like the little engine that could, you keep chugging along. And because the work is still there, the information really needs to get out there. The types of drugs that are on the street are so dangerous. We just have to make sure people are aware, really expand that awareness.
Well, absolutely. I know my daughter used heroin, I'm going to say, for about 7 or 8 years. If the drugs that are out there now were there then, I'm reasonably certain I would have lost her, because you don't see the ones that are doing what they are now. They don't have a whole long lifespan.
They don't. Yeah, I've heard different things about the drugs on the street. today that the addictiveness is that they have to, if they're shooting up drugs, they have to continuously do it
Yeah.
more rapidly
Yeah.
because the high drops off,
Sure.
and it just makes the craving, that much stronger, and the usage just goes through the roof. But yeah, I mean, whatever we can do. I love that we've got supports. We're developing supports. I love the work that Cole Welch does here with Methuen. Methuen is a great model of programming for a police department,
Yes.
engaging with community,
Yeah.
and understanding that you can't arrest your way out of the problem.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
And
right.
I know our prior chief,
Right.
Joe Solomon,
Yeah.
who may not have been the most popular person in the world,
Right.
and him and I may not have seen eye to eye on politics,
Mm-hmm.
but we both had the same passion,
Yeah.
and I give him the credit
Yeah.
for really
Yeah.
changing the Methuen police
Mm-hmm.
attitude.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that brought in the CARES
Right.
program.
Right.
And our new chief has picked it up after him, which
Yeah.
is the Methuen police, and not just Methuen police. I've noticed police in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was when it became the flavor of the month, when there
Mhm,
was an
mhm.
opiate epidemic.
Yeah.
And the politicians all of a sudden started getting
Right.
involved.
Right.
So they started the fight that, again, since that we've been fighting
Yeah.
for 20 odd
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it is very impressive with the former Chief Solomon. I think he saw what was happening in Gloucester. Gloucester was kind of like at the forefront
Yeah.
of this type of work in terms of a police department, really trying to change how they work with individuals that they come upon. But yeah, definitely hats off to Methuen maintaining it. I know Chief McNamara well.
Yep.
When I used to live in Lawrence, he was a patrolman.
Yeah.
And he used to patrol my neighborhood as a community police officer.
Yeah, and let me say, I am so thrilled that they grabbed someone from Lawrence
Yeah.
with that background.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want someone from
Yeah. Right.
that really didn't come from that kind of community.
Right. Yeah, he's got a great mindset, I think, into maintaining that, all about community, and maintaining the CARES program, continuous, and even the work that MVPASAP does, and the training with the support group, naloxone, with people to know what naloxone is, and if there is an inkling that might be happening, to have it in your medicine cabinet. I mean, it's a safety thing there in the case that, God forbid something happens, an overdose might happen or what have you. You have it there to reverse those effects and bring that person back. We hear about it every week. It's crushing what's happening in Lawrence with the number of overdoses, and actually in many parts of the country, actually you're seeing it because of the strength of the street level drugs.
Absolutely.
It's and sometimes one 4 milligrams of naloxone is not enough to bring the person back. You have to do it another one. So
they've upped the dose of that incredibly now. And
so
that's a shame that they actually have to do that.
Exactly.
We're going to be taking a break, but before we go, you brought up Gloucester.
Yes.
All right, here's where I toot my own horn.
Okay.
Before I came here, Lou, we used to do the show at Methuen Community Television.
Yes.
Well, before 60 Minutes got the chief of Gloucester, I had him and Chief Solomon on my show.
You beat 60
and
minutes.
You can look at that in the library, and I had him on for an hour.
That's great.
We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, you want to call in, you want to talk to Harold about the programs, or any comments you want to make, questions. If you want to come in and, talk about your memory with Merrie, that's fine too. And either way, we're going to keep talking what we're talking about, and see you in a couple of seconds, or a couple of minutes, I guess. A couple of minutes. See you in a bit.
Haven of Hope is a faith-based 12-step recovery home for women seeking a loving and structured lifestyle to help them persevere over addiction. Our sober living house offers women an opportunity to gain life skills, coping mechanisms, and personal growth so they may return to their home or working field as productive members of society. Haven of Hope's approach is based on fostering a structured, faith-based life with a core component being the 12 steps from the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, for with God, all things are possible. Contact Haven of Hope at havenofhopemethuen.org or call 978-258-3982. That's 978-258-3982, or visit us at 82 Union Street in Methuen.
Hi there. My name's Phil Leahy, and I do the Empty Chair show here. And as much as Fran and I have enjoyed doing this show, our real passion is with where it all began, the Circle of Hope, my support group for the families of addicts. I learned a long time ago that dealing with an active addict is just too difficult. So we invite you to join our group, the Circle of Hope. Give me a call, 978-886-2949, and you'll see our banner on the show anyway. And give me a call, find out what it's all about. You know, if you don't think you're ready to sit into a group, Fran and I always invite people over to the house, and we sit down, have a one-on-one, and we talk about a plan you'll have to set up, how to deal with someone in active addiction, or just give you a chance to vent. So, I mean, if you or someone you know has dealing with someone in active addiction, reach out, give a call, take the first step. I promise you that it won't make it easier, but once you understand what it's all about, you'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. So again, 978-886-2949. Just ask for Phil. I'm always available 24/7. Thanks, and we'll see you on the Empty Chair. Bye-bye. Okay, we're back with Harold Magoon from LMCC. Hey, Eve, I see you leaving messages. Pick up the damn phone. All right. Again, I've enjoyed this talk with Harold because we are going over a lot of things that are available. MVPASAP, LMCC, Circle of Hope. If you know anyone that has someone that's suffering with this disease, reach out to us, have them reach out to us. Just take that first step. I mentioned it on the commercial that, if you're a little shy about maybe going into a live group, Fran and I, we have people who are a little leery like that. Come over the house, we sit down, we talk, and we've been very successful. And it's something Fran and I really enjoy doing. She's a lot better at it than I am, but I serve the coffee. So anyway, anybody that feels free to call in, we're here to take your calls and leave your comments. And we're going to go back to talking about LMCC. And maybe, Harold, like, where do you see you guys going in the future other than retirement?
Yeah, not too far down the road with that, but I love the fact that we've got such good connectivity, I think, with our staff and with community, and we've recently got some new grants under our belt through the Department of Public Health, and again on prevention-based work. Some of it would be similar to some work that Eve does with drug-free communities. Luz Casado is our coordinator that right now is actually working with a project called Mass Call 3, which actually looks at youth, first-time use amongst substances amongst youth. And so this is for all 5 communities. So right now we're in the process of looking at data from the schools, doing one-on-one. They're called key informant interviews. You might be one of the persons that we ask for an interview about what they're seeing in the landscape with first-time use, with youth, with drugs. What's on, what is out there? What are the things that are important to watch for? Is it vaping? Is it marijuana? Is it something else? Is it underage drinking? So then we're going to take this as part of a plan. We'll do it all 5 Merrimack Valley communities. We're doing it in Lawrence, Methuen, Andover, North Andover, and Haverhill, because they all have challenges, even though you might think, oh, it's a more affluent community. they still have challenges out there, and they might not have the supports built in. So we'll look at all the data from all those different communities, then we're going to come up with some strategies, and they're called evidence-based strategies, proven strategies that show we can start to, make an impact and drive down some of these first-time use rates. It might be through parenting classes. It might be through some seminars in schools. It might be more broad-based community events. It might be a marketing campaign, kind of like you mentioned about with social media, to try to work on some of these strategies to try to keep those numbers down, especially with that first-time use. So I'm excited to work again. We talked a little bit about the effects of COVID and how that really kind of changed us, how we work. And so I'm very much excited about working with the 5 different communities. It's pretty cool when you get to talk with 5 different police departments and 5 different school systems, and the different community organizations, the YMCAs, the faith-based groups from other communities, and see them learn from each other and understand, what's happening in their communities. And that's what community is. It is about learning, educating, and also, outside of the meetings, if something comes up, they have the relationship. They can call their peers and say, what are you seeing? How did you deal with this situation with vaping, or how did you work with this youth student-led group? How are you doing this? So I'm very much looking forward to working in a more collaborative way. And I think MVPASAP works very well. In between that, you talked about the events that earlier today, about what MVPASAP is going to be coming back with. Those things are invaluable. We need to do those as much as we can. Parent nights, National Night Out, all those different things. We just shouldn't be waiting once a year, the first Tuesday in August, to do National Night Out.
No.
We should be doing more of that stuff.
I couldn't agree more. I know that, like I say, we've started doing it again, but we used to go to like a lot of family events,
right?
Sheep sharing and
Yeah.
Andover days and
Yeah.
all these things like
Yeah.
that. St. Alfio's there,
Mhm.
and it's what we have to do. Actually, we get this big bowl of candy.
Yeah.
And what I do is I go out in front of the table and I see kids coming in. They come in for the candy, and once they come in, the parents have to come and we grab them.
That's it. That's it.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever it
we don't
takes.
care how we get them, but we are going to get them one way or another.
That's right.
And it's been success and it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
and you're right. I've worked with quite a few of the people that they're employed at LMCC, and the thing that they do have the passion. I see people in the field that work from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And I see people in the field who have that passion, and those are the ones that are going to make an impact.
Right.
And I'm 74 years old. What the hell am I still doing this? Because I think I can make a difference.
That's
and
right.
I'm sure that's why you're hanging in.
Absolutely.
and,
Absolutely. I use sports analogies all the time. I've got some of my staff now that actually were not using sports analogies and now using them.
Oh, wow.
Proud to say that. But I'm always talking about like expanding our bench, right? When we talk about this prevention-based work, for a long time, we didn't have a lot of people on our bench, right? To be able to talk, because this is work. It's work, and God bless the organizations that do this as volunteers. We're lucky enough to have some people employed that do this work in a way that is a great way to do it with that passion and filling in our bench, like we talked about, to spread the word, to talk to youth groups and parent groups. And he also talked about the different types of drugs that are there. You've got underage drinking. You've got so many other different pieces of vaping that are happening. You have to hit it in all different ways. So I'm proud of the work we've done at LMCC. I want to try to continue it and grow it and collaborate as much as we can. I love the collaborative spirit that we have, and it's people from all different demographics, Latinx, Caucasian, Asian, Black. It doesn't matter, when these drugs come come to us. You know, they don't pick and choose, and they can rip a family apart,
Oh,
and the
absolutely.
devastating effects of it. But they also, you know, if you have the proper information, you can safeguard against these things, or you can prevent that first time use from occurring, as you mentioned, even if it's, you know, a beer or alcohol or whatever it might be. Delay that first time use so the addictiveness lessons, like you had mentioned, like you talked about with the doctor.
And it is, you know, I mean, actually, drug addiction is like any other business, supply and demand.
Right.
If the demand is there,
Yeah.
you know, you can stop you can't stop all the drugs from coming in. Hell,
right.
they're making it now anyway.
That's right.
I mean, you want to put people out of business, get rid of the demand.
Right.
And the only way to get rid of the demand is like you were saying, the early intervention.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Now, you know, one question. Now, I know we've been very fortunate with like Greater Lawrence Tech, but have you noticed that maybe some other schools aren't so inviting? Have you come across that? Because we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, right? Because you have the effects of COVID, and COVID really changed the landscape of engaging, especially with schools, because you know they were very tight with who are they inviting in, that sort of thing. So yeah, you do have those challenges, right? We try to navigate that as best we can. I think with the later grants that we've gotten more recently, Mass Call 3, where we're looking at early interventions with first time use. I think we're seeing elements. Some schools are more approachable than others.
Yes.
You know, and I think one of the things we've seen is like the peer to peer work, right? So if you get in one school and they find out that the principals might talk to each other or the guidance counselors, then word of mouth spreads, and then that peer-to-peer guidance counselor, the guidance counselor, or principal, the principal will sometimes help open the door to get more engagement.
Well, and I'm kind of hoping with the way we've seen the increase in the use of marijuana, vaping with the younger generation, I'm kind of hoping that, you know, the schools will start taking it a little bit more serious because, you know, I mean, I'm pleased that for the most part, most of the schools have some type of education in that. But when it comes to the parents, you have a vast majority of them that belong to the club I created, not my kid. But like I said, a combination of getting into the schools. That's where the kids are.
That's right. That's right.
Because I mean, we even, you know, I get sometimes maybe I get a little radical, but I wanted to get it so that when kids sign up for sports, they have to have their mother or father sign a permission slip. Well, I wanted them to have the parents agree to like a 2 or 3 hour orientation period prior to that. But that's I guess that's a little bit too conservative, I guess.
No, you know, I think you're on the right track though, because I have seen other school districts do something with teams and with coaches, and that they would have to be this type of seminar or workshop in order for the child to participate in sports. They would have to go through this orientation about, you know, drug prevention type work. If you know, there's studies that show sometimes in sports, if a child gets hurt, gets injured or whatever, then they wind up taking pain pills.
Exactly.
And then the pain pills can lead to other things. Just for coaches and assistant coaches and trainers and parents to be on the look for this, right? To make sure that, you know, nothing else is going on there.
Well, I guess that's why I'm such a big fan of the Greater Lawrence Tech.
Right.
You know, I've been invited there previously, pre-COVID, and we are getting back in there now. But I can remember, you bring up the athletes. I think he was the athletic director. His name was Mike Nelson, I think. And Chris Sear, set him up with me. And I guess when the tech used to have early release, I guess the athletes, they'd put them in the auditorium, do a study or whatever like that, or do some kind of talk until it was ready to do the practice or whatever.
Mhm.
And anyway, this guy, he let me in, and I got to speak to about 100, 150 kids.
Right.
And it was absolutely amazing.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's, out of all of this, to me, that's the part that just gets me going.
That's right. That's right. And you never know, what venue, you're going to make an impact, and whether it's, youth groups or PTAs or sports. I think there's a comment on Facebook about it, from an individual that the daughter, I think she says that her daughter became addicted after a surgery.
Oh,
On
sure.
one of the comments there, and where these things can happen. Awareness, watching, when you go to your PCP, you go to your primary care, whatever's being prescribed, that sort of thing. And then, so everyone's on the look, right? So just to make sure that nothing else is happening, you want your children to thrive. You want them to excel in all different areas in the walks of life.
Yeah. And and that's what people have to understand. There are so many ways someone can get addicted.
Yeah.
There is peer pressure. There is the insecurities. There is the genetics. There's just, and the prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
We had one guest. I'm trying to think of who it was. It might have been Taylor. But what happened was, she went to the dentist, and they gave her Percocets.
Yep.
And she took one Percocet, and she made kind of a ritual out of it every night after that.
Wow.
She'd take the Percocet, watch the TV, so forth, and she was on her way.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
See, and that's probably something that, I don't know, maybe it couldn't have been prevented, but I don't know.
Right, exactly. I think a big thing with youth in that age is wisdom teeth. They get their wisdom teeth out, or that's a major oral surgery. And I know the prescribing trends are tightened now, but before, they would give you a rack of Percocets or what have you,
Sure.
And you could see how that can project, over time, and it becomes an addictive thing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, over the years, I think of all the guests we've had here, those who were in recovery at the
Sure.
time. I also think of the many guests that were in recovery and we've lost.
Yeah.
I can think of a half a dozen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know if it, when it affects, when it's somebody
right,
someone you've talked to, someone you've sat down with,
mm-hmm.
The impact just never goes away.
Right.
It just never goes away.
Yeah, I'm sure. And, I know you've continued to do this work, and it, God bless you in the work and the people that do work in this field, because it is sometimes can be very heart-wrenching, to see, what the end result can be. And, we have our meetings every week, and sadly we're getting continue to get fatalities,
Yeah.
and it's a tough thing to deal with. I can only imagine what it's like for family and loved ones. But, as much as we can put these tools into hands of family members through the support groups, naloxone training, and also access to treatment. One of the things I wanted to mention is the LMCC recognized the gap in community when it comes to recovery, is that you might be able to find a bed for an individual, but if that individual didn't have transportation, it couldn't go to Westford or
Sure.
Westboro or Worcester. But so LMCC now has a program like Wheels of Hope, they call it, where we can provide transportation. And I know Cole and through the Methuen PD, we have different portals where people can access it. So a person that wants to get into recovery,
Mm-hmm.
can approach and work with individuals. We have folks at New Beginnings Recovery Center, Lawrence General, at Methuen PD to help folks get transportation to these recovery centers.
And as well as I do, someone who thinks, okay, I'm going to get clean, and if they can't get a ride, well, An hour later, they just may change their
Forget it.
mind about the whole damn
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So something as simple as a ride
Right.
is a huge, huge thing.
Right. Right.
And we were talking on causes, and you probably come across this a lot. I don't know if your people do any dealing with this, but a large amount of those suffering from addiction are dual diagnosed, either
Yes.
with depression or
Right.
bipolar or so forth like that.
Mhm.
Do you come across that also?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and absolutely, and one of the things I love through the hub, which is our hub of community partners that meet every single week, we've really been able to identify all the many of the community partners that are highly skilled in dealing with situations like this, that are dual diagnosis with mental health, substance use, and so folks that are at VinFin and some of the other community agencies. Elliott Hospital is here. Leahy Behavioral Health is here. So there's lots of service providers, but sometimes it's so challenging to navigate these things.
Oh,
So,
yes.
and like you said, and someone might say, "Oh, my loved one is addicted. I need to get them help." But as you mentioned, there might be more to the story.
Yeah.
It might be a mental health situation as well, where there's a dual diagnosis that's involved. But programs like the one that Methuen Cares have, you can get you plugged into some of these resources that exist
Yeah.
to help to give, because you don't want to set the person up to fail.
No.
You just don't want to put them into a recovery situation and have substance use being addressed, but then the mental health is not being addressed,
Right.
when that's a compounding issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we see that many times, more often actually.
Yeah.
And hospitals see it too, and I know they're thankful at the continuous collaboration that we've been able to carve out of this work. And that's the thing that really keeps me going. They say, how do you keep doing this work? I don't even know how many years, 26 years, I don't even know. And because you started as little crime watch stuff and things of that nature. I actually remember with my good friend Linda Susi, who's still in Methuen.
Yeah.
I was the guy next to her when I'm going off topic.
That's all right. Linda's a bulldog. I love her.
When we videotaped prostitutes and Johns, actually, to keep them out of our neighborhood,
Yeah.
Methuen Arlington neighborhood.
Yeah.
I lived on Whitman Street. She lived the street over in
Yeah.
Arlington area. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was the early days
Those are
of
the
Linda.
very
Yeah.
early days. People thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those early beginnings of doing that type of work, crime watch, child abuse prevention, substance use, but now seeing like what can happen in a collaborative way, even though I know it's on Zoom, but you got 30 people connected, right? And they're putting their names in the chat and they're putting their contact information, so that if they come through the course of the week and they see a Jane Doe out there on the street and they know she needs help, they can connect, because they know they've created all this like internal network to try to help people.
Yeah.
I love that spirit of collaboration that exists now with the coalition, and we want to definitely keep that going, keep the collaborative spirit going with MVPASAP.
Yeah.
We're here to support you guys as whatever we can. I'd love to be able to do more, and so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I've heard people use the example that what's the word they use, that too many people doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I don't think there's such a thing as too many people
Yeah,
doing something
that's
like
right.
this.
That's right. Especially, I mean, youth, families, they're getting hit with stuff about, we talked about the dispensary, drive home on 495, bam, bam, bam. There they are on the billboards.
Yep.
People are getting hit with this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
We have to hit back with the prevention message and more boots on the ground, so to speak. We need more people like Cole Welch out there, like Eve Rodriguez and some of my other staff, Luz Casado, Ana Javier, Jackie Chamberlain is my administrative assistant.
Yeah,
She's
Jackie's a pain in
unbelievable.
the ass that keeps everybody.
She's
involved.
unbelievable. I don't know how she does it. And and I have Grace Corporan, Madeline Maldonado that work for me on the
That's
family-based side. all community members, and they do a tremendous amount of work. Very proud of them.
You got someone, Lou?
Yes, we do.
Hello?
You call for it, so.
Is that Eve? Hello?
Hi.
Is that you, Eve?
It is. It sure is. How
Well,
are you
it's
guys?
about time.
You knew I was going to call in. Hey, boss, I'm proud of you. Nice representing our communities as a whole. You and Phil are, you and Phil are key elements to everything we do, and we couldn't have been in the positions we are today without your leadership roles in this effort. And I just wanted to say there's never too many people. It takes a village to do our work.
Oh, absolutely.
And without the village coming together, we couldn't make the impacts that we make on a day-to-day basis. Our drugs are only evolving into stronger and stronger drugs in our communities and through our communities. Our kids are getting addicted quicker and quicker because the potency levels are stronger and stronger. You're getting edibles being made and labeled at 5% potency when you can't really measure one edible from the next. When you're dipping 10,000 edibles into the same liquid, you don't know which edible is getting more of the substance than the other, which is why kids are, taking 2 and 5 at a time and overdosing, right? But these are numbers that we're not seeing as a whole because they're minors and it's not reportable. So we need to make those differences in order to start making a bigger impact among our youth and get the data that we need to really focus on creating comprehensive evidence-based strategies through our communities as a whole in unison to create and meaningful and purposeful change, sustainable change within our communities and within our school systems for all our youth. And our families just need to become more aware. It's not a lack of education, it's just a lack of information. We need to continue informing. We need to continue knocking down doors. Parent-teacher conference nights are very successful events to attend. We need to start having tables there. We need to start having tables at our local football games. We need to start having tables at our local basketball games. If they don't want to come to us, we need to go to them.
Absolutely. No, I knew I liked you the first time I met you, by the way, obviously we appreciate what you do and what LMCC does in general. We're happy to have you on our board of directors because that kind of ties the two of us together. So I know you're on vacation. We miss you here, but I am so glad you called in.
Thank you. I'm waiting on my grandchild to be born. Still no baby yet, but I'm excited.
That's what I heard. And we're looking forward to seeing you when you get back, kiddo.
That sounds great.
Thank you. Well, keep on doing the work you do, guys. I'm proud of both of y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling.
Just quickly, Harold, if somebody wants to reach LMCC, what do they got to do?
Well, best bet right now is to email me. You can email me at hmagoon, Magoon. Don't forget the N, otherwise it's Mr. Magoo, at mylmcc.org. That's the best way to reach me right now, or info@mylmcc.org. We're kind of revamping a lot of our website's being completely revamped, and we're going to be having a new emergence of it. Right now we're at fsmv.org/LMCC, but we'll be having a brand new website up and running in the next 2 weeks that talks about all our different programming, all sorts of connections for folks to become involved in, and looking forward to partnering with MVPASAP along the way.
And so are we. We're really thrilled about that. And before we go, I'd just like to bring up a couple of quick things. Last month, I had an amazing, courageous lady, and she don't think she is, but Karen came in, and she had just lost her daughter, Emma, not quite 25 years old. And she came in and did the show, and I wanted to tell you that I've had a lot of people call me to commend you to do something like that. So I just want you to know you're pretty awesome. I know you're listening tonight, so I just wanted to let you know that you really did a good thing. And I know nothing's going to take the place of Emma, but you are one strong lady. And other than that, I would again like to say that, this show here, and for a long time, we're going to remember Merrie Cunnif, and I hope you'll keep her in your prayers also. That being said, I guess we're going to call it a night, and we'll see you again on the empty chair. Bye-bye.